Hi, Shamiz, and welcome to the GI Health Summit. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Chef AJ. It's a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait to share my story with your viewers.
I can't wait to hear it because your story is one of hope and healing. And please tell our viewers exactly what happened to you.
Right, so all right, so it's been a long journey for me, and it goes back from about 2012 when I was teaching English in Japan, out of all places, and I was just doing my thing, just not paying attention to diet whatsoever, just living a normal life, thinking we need to eat all sorts of things. I really didn't pay attention to my diet whatsoever. And I think the issue with me was with digestive health. So when I started to see irregular bowel movements, and also when I started to see blood in my stool, um, similar to what you also experienced when you were going through your health journey, I kind of got a bit confused, and I was like, "Hey, this isn't supposed to happen to the body. Why am I passing blood through my stool?" And it never really occurred to me that diet had anything to do with this, so I didn't really pay attention to it too much, and it kind of came and went. And one day it started to get more and more, and then I felt really tired, and I was really lethargic, and just like that wasn't me. I didn't feel me. I didn't feel like Shamiz before, so I kind of went to the GP. Luckily, there was an English-speaking GP in Japan that obviously helps with foreign people. And I went to him and I said, "Hey, this is what's happening to my body. Like, what's up? Do you know of any kind of condition like this?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, it might be hemorrhoids, might be piles, and let's get you checked." So what he did was he admitted me to hospital. So he goes, "Well, we'll do a checkup on you." And so what happened then was I scooted to hospital. So I had a scooter in Japan. I scooted to hospital, and I kind of just went straight from the GP to the hospital, GP's office to the hospital. And they did a rectal examination. So the doctor kind of put his finger up my bum, and it wasn't very pleasant because I was like, "Oh, that's not very nice." And he said, "Oh, yeah, it looks like you have a little bit of blood in your rectum, and you might have what's called mild colitis." And so they said, "Okay, we're going to do some more investigation. So you might have to stay in the hospital for about a week, and we might do a colonoscopy to see, what's wrong, or a sigmoidoscopy to see what's wrong." And I did that. The doctor did a colonoscopy, and he diagnosed me with mild colitis. And so I was just kind of like, "What is this colitis?" I'd never really heard of it. And so I obviously Googled it. I was in the hospital bed in the ward, in the GI ward, and I was kind of Googling it, what's colitis? And, I'd never heard of it before. And so what colitis is an inflammation of the large intestine. So when your bowel gets inflamed, when, and you pass blood through your stool, you can't really control your bowel movements. You go several times a day, lots of blood and mucus. And that's what was happening to me during the time. So I was going to the toilet about 3 or 4 times a day. It wasn't so severe, but it was diarrhea and watery. And, that's what concerned me a little bit as well. I was like, "Hey, is the food digesting properly?" So, I then was in hospital, and for that week, they put me on anti-inflammatory drugs, as they always do. Antibiotics, anti-inflammatory drugs. I think Xalazine, that's what it's called. And yeah, they kind of just said, "Don't worry about it. You're going to get better." And the doctor just said, "Just take these drugs, and you'll be good to go." They also were feeding me food that apparently was for colitis and Crohn's patients. So that included like a half-boiled egg or half-raw egg, some miso soup, some porridge or rice porridge, and some. I think it was there was a bit of fish in there as well, which it was pretty bland. There was nothing really to it, and I thought, well, they know what they're talking about, so let's eat this food. And also those little Yakult yogurts, that they're very famous in Japan or in Asia. And I was just like, I was chucking them back because good bacteria, whatever, from yogurt. So I was drinking a lot because I told the doctor like, oh, can we drink this? And he's like, oh, sure, sure, go for it. So I was knocking them back, saying, oh yeah, good for my tummy. However, that's when shit hit the fan. So I went from about 3 to 4 bowel movements to 5 to 6 within the next couple of days, to then 7 to 8, to then 9 and 10. It continuously started to increase, and I was kind of a bit worried. I was like, "Hang on a second, why am I getting worse? This is not right." And of course, my weight was also dropping a little bit because I was just going to the toilet so many times a day, and the toilet was probably about 20 meters away from my room, so I had to get the drip and run to the toilet because I had a lot of urgency as well, and I couldn't hold in my bowel movements. So then the doctors were kind of like, okay, we're going to give you some more drugs, right? As a always do. So they put me on steroids. So, prednisone. And that actually didn't help at all. It actually made things even worse. So from about 9 to 10 times a day, I was going upwards of 12 times a day. And this is when I was really getting a bit nervous because I'm like, hey, I'm in hospital here. You guys are supposed to be taking care of me, and I'm getting worse. And it didn't really, I was a bit scared at that time as well now. And so I think that was around week 2 when my bowel movement started getting worse and worse, and more blood and more diarrhea was coming out. And that's when I kind of called my parents as well. And I was like, hey guys, I'm in hospital. And they're like, what are you doing there? So I told them what condition I had, and I said, no, don't worry about it. The doctors, they know what they're doing, and I'll be here, and I'll be out in no time. And so obviously it didn't get better, and I kept getting worse and worse and worse. And as the days went by, my symptoms just skyrocketed. And I think it was in the 3rd week where, I called my parents and said, you guys got to come here now because I'm struggling. I was struggling to, stand up and stuff because I couldn't. The energy was just being depleted out of me, running to the bathroom so many times a day. And so I actually asked for a private room because I had to run to the bathroom. It was quite far. And so the private room obviously had a bathroom next to the bed. And so I was like, I need to go here, guys. Like, please put me in. And of course, this is all in Japan, right? So it's hard to speak to the nurses in English. So luckily, I knew Japanese. Well, it's hard with the medical terms, but I knew how to kind of get my way around and be conversational. So that made it a little bit easier to work my way around. But, I asked for that private room and I said, look, I need to go there because I'm struggling here. And we got a private room. My parents obviously flew in the next day on a plane from New Zealand, and they looked at me and they said, "Wow, what's happened to you?" Because I went from probably around about 70, 72, 73, 74 kilos to probably around. At that time, I probably dropped 15 kilos, and I looked a lot more skinnier. And they actually, the doctors didn't actually say much. They were just like, keep taking the drugs, it should work for you. They didn't really have any explanations for what was going on. And it just obviously made it a little bit harder because they couldn't speak as much English and so my parents were kind of asking them all these questions and stuff, and they're like, no, well, we don't know what's going on kind of thing, and just, keep taking the drugs. So I think they put me on 80 mg of prednisone as well, which is pretty high dose, and that still didn't work. So that didn't suppress my symptoms. It kept my symptoms right up there. And so, man, I was having a tough time. And so I think it was the 4th or 5th week when things got so bad that I was going about 40 times a day to the bathroom. And I still remember those days to this date. And, it was awful. It was absolutely awful. I was in nappies. My mum had to clean me as well. Things were just going pear-shaped. And I really didn't know what to do because I didn't have the energy to get up. I didn't have the energy to walk. I couldn't even lift my arm up because I was just so weak. And at that point, I had lost another 15 kilos. So I was down to about 40 40 something kilos, and just no energy, didn't know what to do. And my parents were kind of like, what's going on here? He's been in hospital under your care for about 4 or 5 weeks. Like, why is he not getting better? And the doctors just said he's not responding to the medications, and that was their only answer. And so there was one doctor that suggested immunosuppressant therapy or immunosuppressant drugs, which he said this might work. And the reason why he said this was because my colon was so bad. I did a total of 4 colonoscopies in hospital. The third colonoscopy was so bad that he couldn't get past my rectum because it was so inflamed. And I have the pictures here if you want to see them. But because it was so inflamed and so ulcerated. So, sorry, I forgot to mention that my mild colitis went from mild to ulcerative colitis. So I hadn't developed the ulcers at that time. I just had a little bit of mild inflammation, but then as the time went on, I got more ulcers, and here's one of the pictures of my colon, how severe it was, and you can see how big the ulcers were, like really, really big. I don't think I've seen. I mean, this is a very poor state of your colon, and the doctor just he couldn't get past my rectum, so he's like, I can't go any further, otherwise I'm gonna it's gonna rupture, and so they were scared of perforation. My blood tests were really bad, so my CRP was like ridiculously high. They actually mentioned to my parents that if he doesn't get better soon, then we're going to have to do surgery. We're going to have to take a part of his colon out. My parents were just like, what? What did you say? Like how can it be in your care and you want to suddenly do surgery? And I actually was in so much pain. I had, no life left in me. I was pretty much on my deathbed. I did a system as well. They did something to me as well. They experimented with what's called an LCAP system, where they hook you up with a machine and they draw blood from one arm, put it back in the other arm, but they filter it through this machine. So I was lying there for about an hour, the blood coming out of me, going into this machine, and cleaning my blood to get rid of the bad bacteria or whatever they were trying to do there. So I had to sit like this for about an hour. And, at that time I was going about 40 times to the toilet and having severe cramps and all sorts of things. So it was very, very hard for me to be like that. So, that was a very, like, I still picture those days and I'm kind of like, wow, just how did I go through that kind of thing? So, so they ultimately said, well, we have another option, which, if he responds to this medication, then, he might get better. So instead of surgery, because my parents said, no, you're not doing this. You're not taking a piece of his organ out. And so for me, I just wanted them to do whatever to fix me. I was like, look, just get rid of this, whatever I had, because I couldn't speak. I was just like, what is going on? So they gave me this immunosuppressant medication called tacrolimus, I think it was at the time. So it was, I think they were trialing it. I don't know. But they gave it to me, and my bowels settled from about 40 to about 15 to 20, or maybe some days were 10. And that's when I was on Facebook going, we have a house MD here, the program house. And so I just, I felt so much better, obviously a little bit better than I was going 40 times a day, a little bit more energy. But along the same time as that medication, my mum was, trying to find an answer for this. She was scouring the internet for all sorts of things. And she was typing in Google, is tofu good for you? And that's when this book came up called Self-Healing Colitis and Crohn's by Dr. David Klein. And this book was my answer. And, we ordered it in hospital. It came within about 4 days from Amazon. And we started reading it. Me and my mum started reading it page by page, just going through this because there was no other solution. I was in a desperate situation, and I just, anything that came to us, we would have done. And thankfully, this book came because it talks about plant foods. So the vegan healing diet, that's what it's called. Um, and obviously, I had a little bit more energy because of the immunosuppressants kicking in and just totally suppressing my immune system so that it couldn't work. And so we started reading the book. My mum actually got a juicer in hospital and a smoothie maker, a blender, and she would run out, go get some celery, she'd get some apples, she'd get some pears, and she'd be juicing me all this amazing stuff. And I didn't know that, this would work. Like, I just was like, give me anything, So she would make me juices. I'd have a juice every morning, and then she'd get some bananas, and I'd have a banana smoothie. And sooner or later, I started to feel good because this whole time, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks, they didn't actually put me on any medication. Sorry, not medication, any food. Because they said, okay, we're going to give the medication a chance to work. So they didn't put me on any food. So I kind of say that I was on a drug fast. So pumping me all sorts of medication, but I didn't eat anything. So when we started to get the smoothies inside of me, I started to immediately feel better. I was like, wow, I've never felt like this energy just came to me. And obviously my bowel movements also, reacted to that. And I felt good. I actually had a pasty bowel movement, which I was just ecstatic because, I was just shitting water this whole time. It was literally it was just blood and water. And then, my body just started to feel better and better as the days went on, sticking to the juices, the smoothies, and would have some steamed vegetables for dinner. We actually talked to the nutritionist or the doctors about this, and they obviously said, well, where are you going to get your protein from? We sat down with the nutritionist and we told them, look, I'm a foreigner, or gaijin is what they call it over there, and your kind of food hasn't necessarily worked, so we're going to kind of do things our way. Luckily, the nutritionist kind of said, okay, that's fine, and then she just said, oh, make sure you put some butter or something in your vegetables or in your bread so that you get some protein or whatever. And we said, oh, okay, fine, we'll do that. You just give us the food. But obviously, I didn't use any of that stuff. But yeah, and so as the days went by, I started to feel good. My bowel movements reduced even further, and I walked past the nurse ward one day, and all of them they're just looking at me, going, "How's this guy just suddenly woken up? Like suddenly gotten better?" Then, obviously, the doctor said, look, we're going to have to do a colonoscopy now to see what's going on, and are you feeling better? So that's good. And, things are working well. So he said that, if your CRP numbers come down, if your blood tests are good, then you might be able to go home. And this was something that, I couldn't have imagined because of the state of health that I was in. And when they were going to do surgery, when they were talking about surgery, I would have had to stay for another month in hospital for the surgery, and then another further 2 months to kind of rebuild. So there was going to be another 3 months of hospital, and I did not want that. I was like, I need to get out of here. I was just, being in hospital for 6 weeks, I was just so, it was gross, and the smell and all those things in the hospital. It's very bad. So he did a colonoscopy, and the doctor was actually shocked because this is what it came out with.
Wow.
And from that colonoscopy to this one here, you don't see any ulcers, and inflammation is very, very little. And he was absolutely shocked, and he said, "Well, look, the meds are finally working, and while maybe the immunosuppressant drugs worked a little bit, but I think the diet was the key here." And he actually, talked to me and said, well, you're going to have to be on medication for life. You need to take all these drugs with you back to New Zealand. So they gave me a massive suitcase full of medication to take back with me. And you know, I just threw all that in the bin because I'm not taking any meds. You know, it's the last of the medication, and that was the last of the medication that I took, and I haven't taken a single pill for the last 8 years now. You know, it was a crazy experience, to be honest, but I do believe that all these things happened to me for a reason. It was actually a blessing for me to go through this experience. Obviously, after I got out of hospital or went back to New Zealand, there were some ups and downs. You know, mentally, I was very. I guess I couldn't grasp the fact that I couldn't eat any animal products, and so I did go and eat animal products again, and I had a lot of cravings. You know, growing up with animal products all my life, you know, and stopping them cold turkey. So, you know, it took me a while before I kind of embraced this plant-based lifestyle and vegan lifestyle, because I victimized myself a lot, and that's why I think the mental component to healing any kind of gut disease is so important, and taking inspiration from so many others. I think one of the first people that I watched on YouTube was Chris Beat Cancer. You know, him having colon cancer, going through a very similar situation to me in hospital, and you know, cleansing his body with fruit and juice and greens and you know, fruit smoothies. But yeah, after that, you know, me and my brother decided to help people, and you know, I know what it's like to go through this, and it's a horrible experience. I don't wish upon anyone to get this disease. We decided to create a consultancy. So we created HighCarbHealth, and we help people now with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. And I'm a coach. I'm a digestive health coach, and you know, it's been 7.5 years being med free and no issues with my digestion. And you know, I have found this beautiful lifestyle for a reason, and the whole food plant-based lifestyle makes so much sense. One of the first doctors that I read his book was Dr. John McDougall, and I was just mind blown at what he had to say about, you know, food being a integral part of healing the body. And I think we learnt that as well through natural hygiene. So we did a certification from the Vibrant Health and Wealth Academy in Hawaii, where Dr. David Klein is. And, you know, it made us, or taught us about how the body is self-healing. And I think this is the best kept secret in medicine today, is all the plant-based doctors say, you know, that if you give the body the chance to heal, it will. If you give the body the right conditions, it will heal. And so we just got to get out the way sometimes. And you know, it was a big, you know, we were mind blown by this information, and obviously was seeing it for myself and going, hey, how did I get better? You know, because I did the same things. You know, I let the body rest, gave it the right food, and it healed itself. And you know, it's amazing the power of the body. You know, I mean, if we didn't come across this information, I probably would still be, you know, suffering a lot, and I would have been in a bag, and then, you know, got the surgery done to have a fake rectum or something. That's what he was talking about, and that would have been hell. And you know, I am just loving my life at the moment. You know, I run a lot, I cycle a lot, you know, I'm not imprisoned to a toilet anymore. Which is, you know, when you get this disease, you know, you have to worry about toilets all the time, and you know, that's no issues for me anymore. And I'm just so grateful to, you know, come across the whole food plant-based lifestyle. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey. I'm so happy that I am here today and helping others do the same thing as well. So
Is an incredible story. I'm surprised they haven't written you up in the medical literature, because I mean, you have the proof, you have the before and after colonoscopy.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and I think Dr. Scott Stoll has a medical journal now that he's written, and I think we'll definitely go look at that. And also, we have so many case studies as well, and we want to try and work out a way of putting these case studies in the journal. So yeah, I think it will happen one day.
Well, congratulations. And 6 weeks in the hospital, that's got to be horrible. How old were you at the time of your diagnosis of ulcerative colitis?
So I was 23 years old, and yeah, I got diagnosed in 2012. So yeah, it was quite a while ago.
I mean, I feel like if one person is saved their colon from this summit, it will be worth it. Because one of the reasons I wanted to do this is when I was working at the True North Health Center, I met a 29-year-old who did not get this information until after he got his colon removed. And he was like crying, he has a bag and he's like, why didn't anybody tell me? And that's the purpose of this summit. We are telling you that there is often another way to heal.
Definitely, I think there is, and I think people need to understand that medicine can help you, and it can take you to a place where you know it's for emergency purposes. I don't think it's necessary for lifelong, and I think that's where lifestyle comes in, and where you really work on your diet and your mindset and many other factors. And we have 5 things that we generally tell people: food, exercise, water, sleep, and stress. And if you've got those 5 things under control, you're going to be in the best shape of your life. And I think it's so important to talk about all these other aspects to lifestyle change, because it's not just the food, and the food plays a massive role, but there's also other aspects to that. And if you have those in check, then you're definitely going to be in a better situation. And that's why we actually created a YouTube channel to share my journey. And basically, I show everything from what I eat to tips about healing the guts and what to eat, and many other things. Me and my brother actually started that way back in 2013. So please go check that out for all gut health info and tips.
So it's funny how the doctor said, well, when you got better, they completely discounted it could be the nutrition. It's like, well, the medicine must be working.
Yes, that's right. And I mean, there was no questioning like, oh, what did you do? Like, oh, what are you eating? Or I mean, to be fair, I guess he was just going by the rule book. Okay, and I think in Japan it's very structured, that you have to do things a certain way, and no flexibility here and there. So he was just doing his job, and I don't blame him. Um, I just think that now that there's so much more information about gut health, and there was also information back then as well. It's just, I guess we don't explore those things, and I think you know it's important to look at other aspects, and I guess the true way of healing, and not an alternative way of healing, because the alternative is medicine. It's not the true way of healing, and I think we're so much more. I guess we trust so much in the doctors these days that we just we just go to them, and sometimes it may not work for you, and like my situation, it did not work for me, and I had to find the true way of healing to get better. Otherwise, I would have been like that 29-year old who has now is in suffering so much now for what he could be. So yeah.
Absolutely, because you can, once you get your colon out, you can't have it back. And it seems like you were in such distress that you would have almost done that at some point because you just wanted to feel better.
Definitely, and I think that's the problem today, is that people have that, like it's either get the colon out, because when you're feeling like you're going to die, you'll do anything to get better. And I think that's what happens with people, because first of all, they're not told about what to eat, and so what if there was someone to say, hey, maybe if you change what you eat along with medication in the first part, maybe that will help the body come back, and it won't be in such a state of dis-ease.
It just seems that people, whatever their GI disorder is, that they suffer for so long before they get any kind of help or information.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, like, if you get onto it straight away, if you get onto a whole food plant-based diet straight away, you're going to reduce your risk of so many other diseases. And I think it's important to understand that the gut microbiome is super important, and we all know that fiber is what makes that tick. And if you're not eating fiber, which a lot of people are under the impression that fiber is bad when you have a gut issue, please don't listen to people that say fiber is bad for you, because it is good for you. It's so necessary for the GI tract. And if certain fibers don't work for you, like beans and rice and grains, go to the fruits, bananas, papayas, those beautiful, soft, soluble fiber is just going to soothe your colon, and that's why we also recommend, smoothies, and whole fruits as well. But it's it's not known to us because we're not told this. So hopefully someone out there that's struggling will start to implement more fiber, more starch-based foods as well, because those foods are going to give you the nutrition plus the soothing of the colon wall as well, or the small intestine. So yeah, get onto a plant-based diet, guys. It's going to save your life just like it did for me.
Well, I've interviewed quite a few of the GI doctors, many of them the plant-based ones who, Fiber Fuel, Dr. Will B, who's saying that how essential that is. You mentioned that you're a digestive health coach for people with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. Do you work specifically with those two diseases, or can your protocol be extended to people with other diseases like maybe IBS, for example?
Definitely, I think so. I think the whole GI tract is something. Well, what we learned was that the body has a lot of toxicity, right? It builds up all the toxicity from the foods that we eat, and that can be from endotoxins, that can be from the microbiome. And I think the problem here is that we're just, one diet can actually work for a lot of things. And, we know that for type 2 diabetes, we know that for heart disease, it's a very similar diet. Obviously, with GI issues, you may need to tweak things here and there, but essentially, it is a whole food plant-based diet. A little bit of blending and juicing here, maybe here and there, just to really soothe or cleanse the body. However, yes, you can actually use this protocol and fix other GI issues like IBS, and a lot of people have bloating, a lot of people have constipation, just a simple digestive problem can actually get worse over time. So you want to get onto this straight away. And if you are constipated, if you have diarrhea, make sure you're eating lots of fiber, because that's what's going to bind your stool. It's going to make it nice and compact, and it's going to make you regular.
Do you think that if you had gone back to animal products, you would then again have this condition?
Well, I did go back to animal products initially, and it showed me the true path, really. Because when I went back to eating animal products, I did get my symptoms back, so my body did go into a flare. However, I got myself out of that through a plant-based diet, and after doing that, I said, "Ain't no, I'm going back to those foods that create the problem in the first place." It gave me a really good wake-up call, and I was like, right. And I saw the science, and I read up on the science, and I said, well, I don't want to increase my risk of heart disease, diabetes, some cancers, stroke, Alzheimer's, and carbon footprint, and obviously the animals. And so I became vegan as well during that time initially, because I saw just the suffering that happened with these animals, and I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to pay someone to kill animals. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you eat these beautiful foods, and you're thriving. You're thriving with plant foods, and I can't say to people enough that if you get onto this lifestyle and if you stick to it, you will see the light at the end of the tunnel. And if you're persistent, you will get it, and if you're consistent, you will keep it.
I love that. So it's not just about being vegan, though, right, Shamiz? Because if you had adopted a junk food vegan diet, your colon probably would not have healed, at least to the degree that it did with
Definitely.
whole.
I think so. And look, with the vegan junk food and things like that, it's purely ethical. It's not healthy to eat these foods. The oils, the processed foods, they're not something you want to go to if your gut is damaged. Yes, the animals aren't being tortured and killed. However, don't torture yourself. Make sure that you eat the right foods and you create a beautiful symbiosis with your gut, and eat the beautiful plant foods. And it's not to say that I don't eat pizzas or burgers or processed food. I do have that once in a while. I'm not so strict. However, I want to feel the best, and I want to put the best stuff in my body. So 80 to 90% of the time, I'm going to be eating whole food plant-based diet, and occasionally have some pizzas and burgers that occasionally it's good to have, just to keep you sane and enjoy your life, basically.
But these are plant-based pizzas and burgers.
Plant-based
Yeah.
pizzas and
Right.
burgers. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing, because sometimes when people have a serious condition, it makes it easier for them to stick to the diet, because they know if they step out of line, they'll get symptoms. And like you say, people, once they're feeling good, they want to continue to feel their best.
Of course, of course. And not to say that, if I go and eat things, all the time, I'm probably going to get some sort of issue. It may not be colitis again, but my gut is going to definitely feel it. And, you don't want to do that. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, you can't eat what you want anymore," but it's not about what I can't and cannot eat. It's what I want to eat to feel the best. And I'm setting myself up for a half marathon this November. And so I'm training my body up. So I want to put the best fuel in my body to kind of get me to a good place. And I couldn't do this on junk food. I'm doing about 26 miles a week at this point, and it's just going to progressively go up. But I would have never, ever imagined doing the training that I am today, even before I had colitis. I couldn't have run around the block, let alone, I mean, now it's just like, it's just so easy to do the training that I'm doing. And even with, having these gut issues, people don't realize, I mean, like, I can't do this. If I still had colitis, I wouldn't be able to go and run around the block and run so much that I'm doing right now, because I would have to be worrying about toilet all the time. And so, it's incredible that I guess the physical aspect, the performance aspect of the plant-based diet works wonders as well. And obviously you guys know that. Obviously Rich Roll and many other plant-based athletes that are out there that, are showing the way of how to get the athletic performance. And the Game Changers, for example, was a terrific documentary that, really does speak volumes. And it's amazing.
Did any of the doctors ever give an explanation how you got ulcerative colitis in the first place, especially at such a young age?
Yeah, no, they didn't. No, nothing. So they asked me, like, "Oh, do your parents have it? Does any of your family members have it?" And I said no, because a lot of doctors do think it's hereditary. And while there might be a small component to that, we can change that with a plant-based diet anyway. So, I mean, when we talk about hereditary, it's like, well, you're eating the same thing as your parents, so you're probably going to end up with the same disease. So that's why they asked me that, I believe. So you can change your genes, on a plant-based diet. So I think Gregor has talked about that a lot. So
why do you think you got it?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I have many reasons for that. I do believe one of them is to inspire a lot of people. I mean, my parents are both plant-based now. They are both 60 plus. They're on no medications at all. They actually have just gone out for a bike ride. They do 20 kilometers a day, every day. And they absolutely love their life so much. I have influenced my extended family as well. Obviously, my brother, his family are all plant-based. And it was a huge blessing for me, because if I didn't do this, I would have been really sick and unhealthy. And whoever it was that led me to this path, I'm so grateful for living this beautiful new life that I have. And, if I can inspire one person, then I can inspire all. So, it's fantastic to say what I'm saying. And if someone gets inspired by this, amazing. That's my work done,
Yeah. I almost feel like your slogan should be saving the world a colon at a time.
That's a great statement, actually. I'd love to use that someday.
Yes, please do. I used to be an advertising copywriter, and I think about my friend, and I know how his life is. And the worst part isn't so much that he lost the colon, but that he got the information too late. That's what made it so sad.
And if someone is watching this, if you're watching this, just get help if you need it, and go on to a plant-based diet. It's going to save your life, like it has for so many other people.
Do you still have to get regular checkups with a GI doctor or colonoscopies, or for all intents and purposes, you're healed?
Yeah, so I do talk to my doctor, and we do regular blood tests, and he actually says, well, you don't actually need to do a colonoscopy. Your blood tests are fine, and you have no symptoms, so no point in going into the theatre to get it checked. And I think I've done calprotectin tests, I've done stool tests, and they're all fine. So he's pretty happy with that. And of course, I don't like to do a colonoscopy. I did 4, and it's not a nice procedure. And I don't like doing the prep and all that kind of stuff either. So I'm just happy the way I am, and I know that my body is being fueled with the right fuel, and my gut microbiome is on point. Um, I've even gone to the point of showing my stool on YouTube for education purposes, because I think it's very important that we know what the benchmark is for what your stool should look like. I think Greg came out with a video about digestive health, and regular bowel movements 3 times a day is what you want to be aiming for to clean out the bowels. So I think it's important, and I show everything of my life from what I eat on Instagram as well. You'll be seeing everything that I eat every single day.
Well, I thought I watched a bunch of your videos, but I didn't see the one where you showed your poop. So believe me, I'm because I'm very fascinated with that, because one of the things is I want to normalize talking about poop,
Exactly.
because people with GI diseases have so much shame. Hey, everybody poops. Hello, even everybody poops. And that's why every guest on this summit, well, unfortunately, you're not in the country, so I don't know if I could send it to you. I get them a little mug that has the Bristol stool scale on it.
Yep.
I'm a 4, by the way. What are you?
Well, I don't know. I think the Bristol stool chart is a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I think I use yeah. So if you look at my video, you'll know what number
Okay.
I am. But I think I don't tend to use that chart as much, because when you eat fruit, it's actually a different kind of bowel movement, and actually you'll know when you have this beautiful bowel movement, it feels like so much better than what you've probably ever experienced. And that's the same with me. Like I didn't know what good digestion was, and after I started to eat fruit and lots of beautiful vegetables as well, and I found that my digestion just kept getting better and better and better, and yeah, it's fantastic.
That's fine. Do you eat a lot of kiwi by any chance? Because some of the dietitians on the summit really recommend eating kiwi with the skin on, especially for people that have the opposite problem you had, constipation.
I definitely do eat lots of kiwi fruit. Gold kiwis are my favorites. I know the green ones are a little bit more beneficial for microbiome, but I certainly love the gold ones. And obviously, being in Kiwi country in New Zealand, we get a lot. And at one point in season, I think the season just finished, but yeah, I was getting boxes and boxes of kiwi fruit, and I don't know, if you were watching my stories before. So next time this year, you'll be seeing my stories, and I'll be eating, tons and tons of kiwi fruit, just like Robbie. Robbie eats the fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. When you were holding up your hand, you were talking about diet, sleep, exercise. The 5th thing you mentioned was stress. Did you find you were under undue stress when this occurred? And did that play a part at all for you?
Yes, I do think it plays a role. So I do think it triggers a lot of symptoms as well for some people. And I think that we can't, just let that go. We need to work on our mindset and, be mindful of what is around us. And I think while I was in hospital, there was a lot of stress, not knowing what to do. And, when I came out of hospital, there was also another type of stress, which was me victimizing myself and, not being able to eat other things, what other people eating. And that's where I think support comes in. So my family supported me a lot when I was going through this. So they ate actually what I needed to eat in order to heal my gut. And now, we eat everything together, which is fantastic. But I do think that it is a massive component when you're shifting to this life, because you may not see the results straight away. When you go into a plant-based diet, it's not the magic pill that you think it is, because it takes a long time to heal the body. It's a long-term solution. So we have a saying that you have short-term grief for long-term relief. And that's the key here, is that you need to understand that it's a long-term solution. It's not going to suddenly change your symptoms straight away. And it's not about symptom relief either. You want to actually treat the root cause of the problem, which is overload and toxins, and a lot of inflammation and things like that. So you want to address those things by eating the right foods to then allow the body to heal itself. And that's the key here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's true. It's not a quick fix. Talking to some of the experts on this summit, people, for example, with IBS, they've suffered sometimes for more than 14 years. So it doesn't happen overnight. How long does it take, though, with Crohn's and ulcerative colitis for people to start feeling better if they follow your protocol?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things where we have to analyze the situation. Different people have different severity of disease too. So, and the length of time of how long they've had it for, the amount of immunosuppressant drugs that they've taken, the amount of medicines they've taken. Immunosuppressants are actually quite harmful. I mean, we do know that it's not the best drug to be on because of all the side effects, etc. as well. But 1 to 3 months is generally when we see people getting the results. So it is an investment that you have to take in terms of your health, and um, time is not an issue. I say that don't expect anything from your body, because if you expect something from your body and you don't achieve that, then you're going to be unhappy. So just go with the flow. Understand what your body's actually trying to do here, and once your body starts to come around, you will notice good things happening, and you'll see that light at the end of the tunnel. It will get brighter and brighter as you go along. So yeah, 1 to 3 months generally, but it's important to obviously work with someone that knows what they're talking about and knows what they're doing. And because I've been through it, I understand what you guys are going to be going through, and it's very easy for me to coach people along the way, mentally and physically.
Yeah, it's just that we live in a society now with immediacy. People want results right now.
Correct. And that's why I do a consultation for free for anyone out there that is willing to do this. The reason I talk to them for free is because I need to know whether they have what it takes to heal themselves. And if they don't have that, if they want that quick fix, then I'm not really going to work with them, am I? So I really do want to help as many people as I can, but they have to be on board. They have to understand what their body may go through. And that's why, it's important to understand that it's not a quick fix, especially with gut issues, because it's decades and decades of damage that you've been causing to your body, and it can't just happen in a month or a week. It's never going to happen. Some people may see that, but majority of the people do take a bit longer than that to heal themselves. So, and it's also about sticking to the foods. Once you get in a good place, you don't want to get carried away and eat things that you shouldn't. And that's something that needs to be coached as well along the way, because a lot of people can get carried away and they will eat something. They're like, oh, I'm feeling good today. And then they go and eat something they shouldn't. And then, they may get like a return of some symptoms, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't work. You've got to have more patience.
It works as long as you keep doing it. That's the thing. It's the same thing when I work with people for weight loss. They want to be thin tomorrow.
Exactly. And, you're not... I mean, some people can get those results pretty quick, but it's not the majority. And I think you have to work on yourself with so many aspects. Those 5 things that we said, those things are really important to understand how your body is going to move forward and heal whatever condition that you have, whether it's type 2 diabetes, whether it's heart disease, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's, cancer, some cancers, for example, like you have to work with your body, and you have to understand that it takes time to reverse disease.
Absolutely. So best to prevent it in the first place, if at all possible, right? With a whole food plant-based diet.
Prevention is the next best cure.
It had to be scary enough being so young without your family in a hospital, but to be in another country where you really didn't speak the language. Did you ever get in touch with the doctor from Japan and say, hey, look, I'm better?
Yeah, unfortunately, my doctor had come from Tokyo. I was living in a place called Sendai. He had come all the way from Tokyo to fill in. And so I do have his email address. And one day when I go back to Japan, I will contact him. It's just really hard to communicate with people in Japan through email. And again, if I'm not there living, in front of him, it's very hard for someone to believe that. So I'll go back to Japan one day and get in contact with him and talk to him about it. And hopefully he may change his views, and maybe he has looked at the science. I don't know. But there was actually a lot of science. Dr. Chiba actually, had done a lot of studies about Crohn's disease and how, remission rates are a lot better with plant-based diets and vegetarian diets. So there was the information there available, but I think we need to keep looking at the nutrition, more, because I mean that doctor didn't look at nutrition in any way or form. So I will go back one day and talk to him about my journey, and hopefully that comes sooner rather than later. But I'd love to do that for sure.
It's mind blowing to me how, and it's not the doctor's fault because they get very little nutritional training in medical school, but it's bad enough that doctors in general don't think what you eat matters, but that a GI doctor in particular would think it doesn't matter.
Well, that's what I don't understand either, because if you've got a gut issue, it's definitely something what you're putting inside that's creating that issue, And so to kind of just disregard diet, I think, is a very rookie thing to do, and especially when you're a specialist and you actually look at the GI tract for your whole life. You study that, and so I think it is quite sad, really, to not actually have that as a main component of your when you're looking at when you're examining people as well. Like, you need to talk about diet for sure. I mean, they do say, like, spicy food and things like that. Don't eat chilies, don't eat spices, and stay away from some foods. But they don't necessarily say, go to the fiber, for example. They always say, go to the white bread or white pasta. That might relieve your symptoms. But again, it's not about symptom relief. It's about the root cause of the problem. And that's what we should be talking about.
Is the prevailing belief for people with Crohn's and ulcerative colitis a certain diet? Like, for example, in IBS, they often give people a low FODMAP diet. Is there one particular diet that is the prevailing view right now?
Well, I do believe it's the whole food plant-based diet. I think that if you look at the science behind, the plants, I think all indicates towards eating more fruits and vegetables. Fruit specifically, we like to advise more fruit because it can be very comfortable on the GI tract, and it can minimize symptoms drastically. Like pain, for example, can go away pretty quick with things like bananas, and that's something that's very significant, because pain is something that's really what triggers and hurts a lot of people when they're going through this. I mean, bowel movements aside, pain is something that's really hard to deal with. So, getting in the papayas, getting in the fruit and the starches like sweet potatoes and pumpkin and all those foods are really good. Now, I think the low FODMAPs it's a short-term thing, isn't it? It's not a long-term thing. So
well, a lot of the doctors on the summit advise against it because of nutritional deficiencies, but it seems to be a go-to diet that's what some GI doctors prescribe. And I was wondering if with Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, what the mainstream doctors were telling these patients to eat.
Do you mean that the just doctors in general, or do you
the doctor? Because I know what you're prescribing is what I would agree with. But what, like, in the hospital, you said they gave you like porridge and a raw egg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they understand that has such significance to how the outcome of healing a disease. And I think it's just the nutritionists and things, the team of dietitians and nutritionists in the hospital, I don't think also understand that it's not about protein. And that's what was kind of enforced when I was going through my hospital phase, was that they were really concentrating on the protein for some reason. And I think there's so much misinformation about protein these days. It's just, I think it's so irrelevant. And that's what she kept telling me, like, where are you going to get your protein from? And so I don't think they fully understand nutrition. I mean, they're not taught to look at nutrition in med school, and I think that's it's lacking, and the whole 6 years of studying, I think, there's got to be some component of that. And I think in US, I think they do have Dr. Neil Barnard's lifestyle medicine pack, and I think I was actually working with a client, and they do receive a lifestyle medicine pack which talks about type 2 diabetes, heart disease reversal and prevention. But I think he said that there's no exam on it, so they don't bother looking at this book. So that needs to be pushed a lot more. And I think it's being pushed a lot more in the US, but I think around the world it needs to be pushed even more as well. I mean, we all know that there's a lot of money in all this behind the scenes, and that's probably one of the reasons why it may not be there. But we need to push fruits and vegetables when healing and when wanting to reverse disease, for sure.
Well, you had mentioned that given the right conditions, the body knows how to heal, but there really is no money in self-healing.
Exactly. I mean, the broccoli industry, right? Like, and that's the problem that I see with today's world, is that it's, there's a lot of money behind all these treatments and all these surgical procedures, and it really does grind my gears sometimes when I talk to clients and they're like, oh, but my doctor didn't, my doctor said this and this, and I'm like, well, who do you trust, and who do you want to get better? Like, is he or she gonna be, telling you to eat your diet, or are they going to prescribe more drugs on top of the drugs that didn't work for you in the first place? And that's my worry there, is there any kind of, like, are you prescribing these drugs just for the sake of it, or is there an agenda behind it, or what is going on? And some of the plant-based doctors are actually amazing because they get rid of that prescription pad, and that's what Dr. McDougall says, is that throw away those prescription pads and go to the food. He's so confident in saying that, and I think John McDougall, he's my hero because he stands up for people like me, because people like me, I was struggling, and this is why I do, I do have a sore spot for medical doctors, because when I went through the hospital visit, they didn't do anything for me, and this is for so many people out there. They didn't do anything for me, and I wish they knew more about it, and that's where John McDougall comes in, because when I heard him speak in the many lectures that he's spoken, and there's so much amount of research that he's been able to do, he stands up for people like me because he's also been through it himself. Him having a stroke at 18, he knows what it's like to have disease, and it's not a nice place to be in. And so if there was a solution to this, which there is, we know, why aren't we pushing this? And that's where I feel really a bit annoyed and frustrated sometimes when doctors suggest that no, diet has nothing to do with it. Because for people like me that struggled so much, it's just completely wiped away. And there's so many others also that struggle along the way, and they're not given that solution that we know what works. And
Right.
yeah, it's very sad.
Well, that's why you have your YouTube channel, and that's why we're doing this summit, so more people will get this information. Having suffered myself for years with GI conditions from the top to the bottom and everywhere in between, I have a lot of empathy for people that are suffering, because other conditions, not that they're not serious, like heart disease and diabetes, they don't, like you say, necessarily cause like pain all the time, like the way GI symptoms do, or fear about not finding a bathroom. So having suffered for so long yourself, what would you say to somebody with any kind of a GI situation that's pretty much given up hope?
Well, I would tell them that there is hope, and please watch the testimonials that we have, that all these other people are also creating a life for themselves, because in the end, it is about yourself. You can't rely on other people to heal you, because it's your own body. You have to heal yourself. And if you take inspiration from all these other people that are succeeding in their lives, you can succeed too. And that's why I do believe successful people are successful, because they never give up, and they keep going until they get to the point where they succeed. And take inspiration from all these amazing people that are out there telling their stories to you. And one of my favorite, one of the most influential people for me when I was going through my journey was Lance Armstrong. He had been through so much for his health, and getting testicular cancer, and the cancer actually spreading to his lungs and his brain. And for me to kind of be like, how did he get out of it? And his condition was so much worse than mine, and I'm thinking, how did he do what he did, get back on the bike, get as fit as he ever was, and continue doing what he did? So I think that was huge for me. And by taking someone like that, it honestly pushes you to your limit, and it makes you understand that your life is worth living. It's not, it doesn't have to be sad and miserable all the time. You can get out of this.
What about people that have already lost their colon? Is there any way to help them at all?
Well, definitely. Well, interesting you say that, because we had a person approach us with a J pouch, and he actually said, "Hey, I'm doing this paleo thing," and obviously, keto and paleo right now is pretty, pretty significant today, because it's a lot of people are getting results, whatever, but it's short-term results. And so after he started to do this, he kind of started to get worse, especially with his GI issues. And I told him, I said, please get off the keto diet right now. It's not going to do anything for your gut. And so he started to incorporate more plant foods, and he did go through what's called a detoxification, or he did, get increased symptoms as he would, as his body is cleansing and clearing out all the crap that he's been eating from the past. And so there was a little bit of, being uncomfortable. However, when he turned the corner, he's feeling the best he's ever felt. All his blood markers are the best they've ever been throughout his whole journey. And so for someone like some people that have J pouches out there, still eat the fruits and vegetables. They're still going to be good for you, and they're still going to give you the nutrition that you require. Yes, your bowel movements are never going to be perfect, but he said to me that, while his bowel movements are not always, good and amazing because he doesn't have a colon, they're so much better than he was. Like, that the build-up is not there anymore that he used to find, not eating fruits and vegetables, and energy levels, and he's back at the gym now, and he's even more powerful and stronger than ever. So, it works for people that don't have colon as well. You just got to get your head around it. You've got to make sure that you get the information that you need to kind of get better, and that's why I do recommend a little bit more fruit based to kind of soothe the GI tract.
Fantastic. So, Shamiz, what is the truth about GI health?
Well, I think the truth is that the body is a self-healing mechanism, and it's a self-healing marvel, and we underestimate the body a lot. And given the right conditions, the body will do the job, and the body will do its work. And so when you are in a state of dis-ease, okay, when you give your body the right conditions, you put yourself back into ease. And that's how simple it can get. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to take all these different protein powders or supplements or pills. Just give the body the right condition and it will heal itself.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Shamiz. And keep on saving the world a colon at a time.
Thank you so much, Chef AJ. It was a pleasure to be here. And, thank you so much for creating what you create in this movement. And, it's been amazing. So thank you so much for having me.
And my pleasure. And thank you for the work you're doing.